there's people that I know that I believe will be late to their own funeral. The hearse will get there late while everybody's waiting, because that's how they live their life. They are constantly late to everything. In fact, if you want them there on time, you need to tell them an hour to an hour and a half before the time you actually want them there is the time that they need to be there, because then they may actually get there at the time that you need them. Hello once again, and welcome to the Audacious Faith Podcast, episode 94. And hey, as we start today, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered why it is that people just don't trust you? People don't believe you when you talk. People don't think that you're going to actually come through with what you say. Okay, I have a question for you as well. Do you even believe yourself when you say you're going to do something? Great question, isn't it? You know, Jesus spoke about this, and he gives us the reason why people often don't believe us when we say something, because it's possible that our word means absolutely nothing. You've probably heard it said, hey, if you don't have your word, if your word means nothing, then what do you have, right? And Jesus speaks of that in Matthew chapter 5, verse 34. In Matthew 5, he's talking about oaths. You know, I swear I'm going to do this. You've heard that phrase a lot. You've probably used it a lot as well, right? I swear I'm going to do this. You have my word on it. Oh, yeah, and people even pinky swear sometimes, right? And yet, they don't do it. And so Jesus said, hey, when it comes to making an oath, he says, don't swear on your own head. Don't swear when it comes to God. Don't anything like that, because, you know why? Because those are very serious things. And you should not be making promises that you should not keep, that you would not keep. And I've heard this quite often where people say they're going to do things and they don't. So Jesus comes along and he says this. He says, hey, if you're going to say yes, then let it be a yes. If you're going to say no, then that's a no. Anything else, he says, is evil. It's from the evil one. Now, as I mention this to you, I know a lot of people that do this. I struggle with this at times myself, but I try very hard not to. If you say you're going to do something, do you do it? If you say you're going to be somewhere, do you make it there? If you make a commitment for a certain responsibility or a certain time, when somebody else is asked whether they think you're going to fulfill that commitment or be there at that time, what would they say? What they will say is based on your track record, based on your reputation, based on what it is that you do on a regular basis. I use this phrase sometimes that there's people that I know that I believe will be late to their own funeral. I mean, literally, the hearse will get there late while everybody's waiting, because that's how they live their life. They are constantly late to everything. In fact, if you want them there on time, you need to tell them like an hour to an hour and a half before the time you actually want them there is the time that they need to be there, because then they may actually get there at the time that you need them. People that are supposed to be somewhere at a certain time, and yet they'll be leaving their house at that time, or possibly even after. People that say they're going to show up, people that say they're going to help with something, they say they're going to do something for you, and yet when the time comes, excuse after excuse after excuse. They're one disaster after disaster after disaster. So you may wonder, if that's you, you may wonder why it is that people don't take you seriously. Why it is that people don't believe you when you say something, because you don't follow through. And Jesus speaks very clearly about this. He says, you know what? If you're saying yes and it's not yes, or if you're saying no, but then you end up doing it anyways and you don't follow through with your no, that's from the evil one. That is not the way that we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be people of integrity and people of our word. So just in these last few minutes that I want to talk about this, was that I don't want to take a lot of time today, because it's possible you're already running late. So I want to make sure that I keep you on schedule. Now, if that seems like a snide comment, it's just because I see this so much. So much. You might be listening to this right now and go, oh man, he's talking to me. This video is being made because of me. He knows me and he experiences this with me. Oh, if that's true, I wish you were the only one. I see it over and over again. I go to birthday parties that are supposed to be at like 3 o'clock. When are most people getting there? 5, 6. When it's like time when I think the party would be over is when the parties really be beginning. I went to a funeral just the other day that was told it would be at 3 o'clock. You know when that funeral started? 5 o'clock. We got there and were told it would be a long time. We had people that came and fit in their schedule to actually get there. And what happened? They actually ended up having to leave 45 minutes before the actual service started because of the way things were scheduled. Okay? We need to be people of our word and commitment. So this is one of the things that I try to do in my life, and I would encourage you to do as well. Number 1, don't make promises you can't keep. Don't tell people you're going to do stuff when you have no intention of doing it or when there's a very good chance that you're not going to do it. Number 2, if you make that promise, then you go through hell or high water to actually fulfill it. You tell a person you're going to be there, you do everything rather than getting stuck in some accident and a note from you being in the hospital somewhere to actually be there and to fulfill that commitment. Your word needs to mean something. It does, because as people of God, hopefully, or even if you're not, what do you have if you don't have your own integrity? Number 3, this is important, because if you make commitments and don't follow through, guess what? You won't even have integrity with yourself. And when you say you're going to do something, you're going to accomplish something, or this is the time I'm making a decision, I'm going to follow through, you don't even believe it. Because you know how many times you don't follow through yourself. So putting all those things together, it is time today to make a decision that you're actually going to stick with to turn over a new leaf. Number 1, I'm going to be on time from now on. If I have to get up earlier, if I have to get out earlier, if I need to allow extra time so that I can allow for all the unexpected things like traffic, a stoplight somewhere, construction, whatever it is, my car not starting in the morning because maybe I didn't turn the light off inside it the night before. I don't know. But start making a commitment that not only are you going to be where you said you're going to be, but you're going to be there on time so that you can quit being everybody's joke about how you're never there and you never follow through with what you're supposed to do. Number 2, hey, I'm making a decision from this point forward. I'm going to fulfill my promises. You know, God fulfills his promises to us. So we, as we reflect him, should be people that fulfill the promises that we make. And then lastly, I'm going to fulfill the promises that I make to myself and to God. If I say that I'm going to do something, even if it's a year later, whenever I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it. Unless God shuts the door and makes it impossible for me to do that, I'm going to follow through with what I say. Not only will this change other people's perspective when it comes to you, and they'll start to believe you, but it'll also help you to hold your head up higher and to start to believe yourself as well. So what do you think? Are we ready to do this? Are we ready to make this change? Are we ready to quit being like a day late and a dollar short all the time in life because we just can't even follow through with what we say we're going to do? I want to hear from you in this near future about how making these changes are starting to change your life. You can contact me at the Audacious Faith Podcast on Instagram, or J. Gauthier Sr. on Instagram or on Facebook, or jgauthier@gmail.com. I want you also to make sure that you have subscribed on whatever platform you're watching or listening, and also be sure that you're sharing all of these podcast episodes with others. It's always a blessing to be able to come through and do what I told you, and that's share content with you on a regular basis. So God bless you. We look forward to interacting even more together. This has been the Audacious Faith Podcast. See you next episode.